Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, the Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you. Greetings and welcome to today's episode of Speak, the Universe Listens. And today's topic is manifesting through detachment. And I have Teron joining me.
Hey everybody.
Rodney
Hey.
and Steven. So a lot of times we do talk about, you might hear the term detachment thrown around and you just kind of wonder like, what does that mean? If I'm detached from it, then does it mean I don't want it, or how does that work? And so this is a topic that I don't know if some of y'all been listening lately, but Rodney has finally decided to read or to, I guess, listen to the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success because Big Sean recommends it. And so, I don't want to explain, it doesn't matter. Whoever recommends it, and if it gets you to read it, I'm just overjoyed by that. But at any rate, and so he's been like really talking about the law of detachment. So
It's gonna put me on the spot.
yes.
Yeah, so it's something that's been very interesting to me. Basically the law of detachment is what it's saying is you still have your intention on what you want, but how you get from point A to point B, you open your mind up to the wisdom of uncertainty, meaning you don't have to know exactly how it's going to happen. So you're releasing the attachment to the result.
I like that a lot. It's, what I heard you just say right there, what it kind of sounded like to me was like being willing to manifest without limitations. So being willing to kind of put your mind on what you want, but understanding that it doesn't have to go the way that you're envisioning it. But just know that you want to reach the overall goal of that happiness or that joy. It doesn't have to be, oh, I need to get this job in order to get this happiness. It's I can get this happiness in whatever way it comes.
I think about it like when you see the title, when I think about it, I look at it like with detachment. Basically, you're trying to manifest something in your life, right? So you're detaching from the things that are seen as holding you back. You know? So it could be possibly like, let's say you detach from a certain group of friends. They stay friends though, you know, but or family members, or just something that you've been holding on to, but the thing that you've been holding on to for so long is the thing that's been holding you back from manifesting what it is that you really want in your life. And for me, I thought about that as the way I had certain scenarios, and I didn't really think about it, right, until it actually happened. When I detached myself from a situation, I noticed everything that I wanted, it came just like that. And I'm like, and I thought about it, and I said, well, So I've been, this whole time, I've been holding on to this attachment. And as soon as I let that attachment go, I started getting everything that I wanted. So I think like it's so many ways, you know, when it comes to detachment that you can go off of.
So the way I look at it is like, we all know it's a million ways to do everything. So instantly when I say, hey, I want this, and I'm putting my attention on having this, I cut off the possibility of all these different ways of it happening by thinking, oh, well, this gotta happen, or it gotta go this way, or basically we only going off what we know. But when you open your mind up to the wisdom of uncertainty, not knowing how it's going to happen, then you also opening up your mind to, you also open it up to all the possibilities of how it can happen. So when we say we want this or put our attention on having this, but we're focused on how we're going to get it, then we're limiting those possibilities to only what we know. And that hinders us because we only could go off past things that have happened, or it cuts off the possibilities of any way it happening. So we know we want to get from point A to point B, but how we get there doesn't matter.
I don't have to say a word because y'all got this.
But what you're saying is true though. It's like, and I agree with you. It's basically just, I think if people stepped out of that comfort zone and just go out there and just step into the unknown, you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's the biggest thing that holds people back, is that they don't know. It's just, you're comfortable knowing what you're getting into, but then when you don't know what you're getting into, that's the fear. That's what holds you back. I've had it numerous times happen to me as to where I'm scared to level myself up because I don't know what's on the other side. But I know if I stay where I'm at, I know what's going on. I'm okay. But when it's leveling up, now I'm in a space of uncertainty. So what you were saying, Roz, I agree with you, man. I think that if people can just go ahead and take that leap of faith into the unknown, they'll probably manifest a whole lot.
Yeah, like a lot of times I would say, I want this certain amount of money by this time.
Yeah.
And instantly, I cut off all the possibilities of that happening because I'm immediately thinking of ways it could happen. Instead of feeling, how do I feel when I have that much money at that time? How does it make me feel? What does it look like having that amount of money? And so when I detach myself from the between A to B, then it opened up all the possibilities of me having the money.
So
there's different ways I can get it.
So what's something that you had in your life that made you, I guess, just jump into the unknown? What pushed you into the unknown? As
So
far
I
as
can say the podcast. So, or write my book or anything along these lines, because the thought that I had, that I've always had, was that I would love to, I guess, be able to influence people to tap into their higher selves. But I've always been a person that's quiet to myself. I never, expressed. Right. And so I just had that thought in my head, and that's it. And then all of a sudden, one day I wrote a book. I wasn't thinking, I'm going to write a book, and then that's going to lead to me doing courses, and that's going to lead to me doing a podcast, and that's going to lead to me getting more comfortable in front of people, and that's going to lead, I didn't think of any of that. So that's an example of, I just had the thought, the desire, I guess, the willingness, and it's kind of your spirit, your higher self knows what you want and knows how to fulfill it. And so while we're thinking, what if I was okay, well, now I got to write a book. How long is it going to take me to write a book? Okay, now I got to write for 30 minutes every day for 3 years. It puts a whole different slant on it. Who knew I would be where I am today? I didn't even consider it. And everything just came to me easily and effortlessly. I didn't try to do anything.
And that made me think of also when you release your attachment from it. When you attach to these things, then it cuts off your creativity, really. Mm-hmm. So if you say, well, I want to write a book, and you looking at how I'm gonna write the book,
Yeah.
you instantly cut off your creativity on the content of what you're gonna write. You know, so when you detach yourself from these things, you open it up. You open up your creativity too, I believe.
So what would y'all say to somebody who would say something like, I want to manifest more love in my life? So I'll answer first.
I like that.
It been sitting on my mind. What I would tell them is to release maybe the detachment of first where you feel like the love has to come from. So I think a lot of times when people say I want love in my life, they only ever think of it from a romantic standpoint. And whereas you can have a different soulmate, like y'all are my soulmates. Like honestly, like I feel like I'm a better person around y'all, and y'all complete my soul. So I don't have to. It doesn't have to be romantic way for it, So it's like releasing that attachment as well. So it's like, I guess in that situation, it's releasing the attachment of what the position that you think the person is supposed to hold in your life. Because if we're all the same, you can't tell somebody what position they hold. They're just gonna, y'all just gonna vibrate on the same levels.
And I really like that example too, because probably, let's say if you were thinking of a romantic relationship and then we all showed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're filled.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're not desperate, because that desperate energy will cause you to pull some desperate energy, while your perfect mate is being refined. The universe knows what you want, right? Knows what's gonna help enhance you, help you to expand. So that's being prepared, and in the meantime, you're still getting the love. Yeah.
And say it one more time.
That's it. How would you help somebody if they say, I want to manifest the feeling of love?
Be love. I would say be love. I think a lot of times everybody looks for, not everybody, but some people look for love outside of themselves, and they looking for somebody to validate them, and that's why I say, like, if you come from a space of love and you are love, then you have no choice but to attract it. So just keeping that type of mindset.
Another thing detachment helps with is, honestly, when you say, all right, let's just use money as an example. You say, I want this amount of money, and you had that attachment to it, then it causes all sorts of things like anxiety or emptiness. Like you feel that, your attachment to it is like it defines you. You know what I mean? Like, so when you detach yourself from it, it makes you feel way better. Like, okay, I'm putting my attention on having this. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I believe and I have faith it's going to happen.
And it's funny because I remember, like, when I would do interviews, there was a question that we had, and I haven't done interviews in a long, long time, but it was a particular question we had, and people would answer the question in that way. They would be like, oh, like I might say, well, what do you see yourself doing in 10 years or something like that? And people would say, oh, I want to be happy and, just loving whatever I'm doing and, something like that. And I would be like, that's just the vaguest answer ever. Like, you have no goals. I'm going to need you to have some goals and, whatever. But now, if I were to ask that same question and people respond in that way, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that's the perfect answer. That's a perfect answer, yeah.
You can still have goals, though. It just detach yourself from how you get into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but in my hard-wired mind, I was thinking, if you don't know where you're going, how in the world are you going to get there? So you need to tell me in 10 years, you haven't thought about what you want to be doing in 10 years. So in my head, that's how, I was just so goal-oriented. Like, you got to achieve this, you got to achieve this, you got to achieve this, you got to work, you got to do. Not realizing that, again, the universe can provide.
Right. I was having a conversation with two people, and they we was talking about, yeah, one person said, yeah, I want to be a millionaire next year. And the other person said, well, what's your plan? And I said, don't worry about the plan. Just focus on wanting to be a millionaire next year. And they said, no, you got to have a plan. And I'm like, okay. You know, I'm trying to, but just that example is like, we want to know step for step how everything happens. And it's that want for control. But really, wanting that control is really fear. So when you detach yourself from all those things, you release all of that, and you open the possibilities of numerous things happening, and it happening in any way.
And like one thing we get hung up on, so for example, the person said, I want to be a millionaire next year. And then you focus on being a millionaire, which is attachment, it's not detachment. Because the thing to focus on is how would it feel to be a millionaire, and begin feeling that today. Like you don't have to wait until you're a millionaire. You start feeling that today. You start being that today. And again, the universe knows how to deliver, and it will deliver at the right time. But if you're already feeling like all the feelings that you would feel, then whether you get $1 million or not is irrelevant. But of course, we're all like, but I want my stuff. It's not irrelevant to me. I want the $1 million. But you want to feel so secure, so sure, the feelings now that it doesn't matter to you. And when you feel that, that's when it's going to come to you.
I often think, like what you just said, I often think like, did Bill Gates or, you know, millionaires now, did they ever sit back and think to themselves, like, did they map out a plan, or did they just go with the flow of, you know what, this is what I want, it's going to happen, and boom, that was it.
For certain, for sure, millionaires are not a monolithic group. So it's not like all millionaires did it this way or all did it that way. And there are different levels of millionaires. So a millionaire can be somebody that has $1 million. They're considered a millionaire. Then you can have somebody with $425 million, which is 424 million more than the millionaire. And so surely they have two different thought systems going on that's at play. So yes, definitely some work their butt off, day in and day out. And then some, it just flowed to them. They inherited it. Some people, they just got ideals just popping into their head from the universe because it's something in them that's allowing that frequency to come to them. They're vibrating in such a way that these ideals just pop and they act.
This subject is interesting because I think to find the one thing that I still struggle to detach with is the idea of success. Meaning, I find myself not wanting to do certain things until I reach a certain level. So it's like I don't want to talk to somebody about a certain thing until I'm like, oh, well, I got to be able to show you I got it. So that way you can say, yeah, well, I'll listen to him because he showed me I got it. That's always the one that's still a little difficult for me to detach from, honestly. The idea that I have to wait on certain successes in order to share any knowledge. So how would you guys say to kind of combat that?
Well, I would say, I wouldn't necessarily combat it, but I would say in every moment you can share with anybody, even if it's just sharing love. Like we don't have to put a separation between like, oh, this is the knowledge that's reserved for only if I've made it. You know, because what it is that you are wanting to share is your love. That's really what it is. And the more you shine, the more you radiate, the more, that's what you're doing. You're sharing because people are going to be like, oh, dang, he got an awesome shine on him. And then they want to know, well, what are you doing? So, like, a lot of times we think we aren't doing anything
Mm-hmm.
from day to day. You know, you might think, I didn't, because part of our mission statement is that that's what we do, that we share, right? And so you might think, I didn't say anything to anybody today, but did you shine today?
I like that.
For me, I would say, just coming from that space, because I've been there, you know, and not believing that, like, I have to wait until I have it in order to actually, you know, go about doing something that I wanted to do. But I would say you have to start from somewhere. And so for me, I got out of that space. I realized that I don't have to wait until I have in order to make the next step. You know, if I go about just doing it, then for me, that just pushed me into the direction of like, okay, now I'm taking the next step that I need to take in order to get what it is that I want.
Oh, okay, real quick. The language,
Yes.
did you catch it?
No, I missed it.
Okay, so basically you're saying you're separate from
Mm-hmm.
what it is that you want. So as long as you keep claiming that you don't have it yet, then
You just
Yeah.
gonna take what I was gonna say. I should have went first.
yes, you can take over.
Yeah, but I was thinking the same thing, like, cause I struggle with that too, and then I realized that I keep putting my focus on that I'm not that yet, you know, instead of being that and being that every day.
So I could say, like, every day I just keep reminding myself, you know, when I'm in that space, because like I said, it's a challenge every day for me and, you know, and for you guys, but just putting myself in the space of when I get to that point, I'm thinking I need to, I'm not there yet, or, you know, I don't have, I remind myself that I already have, you know, I'm good, you know, I am. That's my thought process. I go back to thinking that I am and I have everything that I need and more. And more. And when you think like that, then that shifts your mind, then you put you in that space of, you know what, okay, I'm good. Like, I got it. And then you just start to every day, you just start to feel better. You know, you won't think from the place of lack or, like our best said, separating yourself.
Yeah, thank you guys. I actually think those feelings are definitely important too, because especially around this time, I know for myself, and I've spoken to a lot of people, you know, holidays seem to be a time where everybody just gets really reflective. And when you get reflective, you get kind of judgmental on yourself. And it's oh, I haven't accomplished enough of this, or I haven't accomplished enough of that. And I just hearing you guys just remind me to say, just be what I want. So be everything that I want to be every day and keep making that choice. It does just relieve like that stress or that anxiety of oh, this needs to be accomplished or that needs to be accomplished. Like those year-end goals, I start to look at them a little differently when I feel like, oh, well, I was being joy instead of like I want to be happy.
I think 'cause that's close to the end of the year, people reflect around this time too.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of what you're saying has to do with us thinking and seeing ourselves as separate from source, separate from the divinity of all that is. And so when we're relying on this part of us, this limited physical part of us, it's just a small amount of things that we can do. And when you're not doing enough from that space, then you can start kicking yourself. But that's because you're limiting yourself. But if you start acting from the space of all that is, realizing that that's you, like you can act from that space. So a lot of times when we say stuff like, or Stephen says it most frequently, I'm already it, I'm it now, I have it now. It can sound foreign because people are like, no you don't, no you're not, you ain't all of that. Yet, you're not that yet, and that's how we often see ourselves, like I'm not that yet, I'm not there yet, I still have to get there. because we're not realizing that we're already all of this. Already all of this. We keep forgetting. We forget who we are. We forget our divinity. And so reminding ourselves of who we are, there's no reason, like Stephen had mentioned, that sometimes it's the fear of the unknown. There is no unknown. Like, we already know it. We already know everything, but the more we think we don't, then that's what shows up in our reality. And so we create from the inside out. So whatever we are feeling, thinking, etc. on the inside, that's what's going to show up in our world. And so many times people will say, if you ask anybody, they'll tell you blank. Yes, of course, that's what they're going to tell you, because that's the world that you have created. But there are all types of people in the world. There are people who would not say that. They would not agree with that. They would not, a lot of small businesses say, well, all small businesses will say blank. They'll tell you people will try to, get your services for free, et cetera, or all small business owners will tell you that we got to work twice as hard. Yeah, they will, because they all are small business owners, and they have created this world for themselves. And so, like we were kind of mentioning it just a little bit ago when Stephen was like, well, what do millionaires think? There are all kinds of millionaires, and even though I'm doing my hands like in levels, I don't really mean levels. It doesn't matter, because especially once you have enough money to have what you want, how many of those dollars you have, it really makes no difference, right? It doesn't matter. And one thing that I've heard maybe like a year ago that was kind of interesting to me, somebody was saying they didn't have enough money and they were in debt and that type of thing. And so the person they were talking to was like, okay, well, I'm just saying, a millionaire is in more debt than you are, right? Because they will take their, let's just say $1 million and buy a mall that's worth, I don't know how much malls are worth, $1 billion. So they'll leverage that $1 million to $1 billion mall. But now they're in $1 billion of debt. You're in $100,000 debt. So who has the most money?
Interesting way of looking at it. I like it.
Are we summing up detachment?
I got nothing else on detachment.
Just gonna sum it up? Yeah. Okay.
So you're gonna erase all that?
Actually, no. Do it on the camera later on. So that way, it'll help me later.
I feel like you gotta say something to get back to
Okay,
it.
I will.
All right.
I don't have nothing to say, but I'll bring it back. So we've been talking about manifesting through detachment. So before we close, I'm gonna get Rodney to close. But before we close, do either of you have a closing statement?
Just to always remember that you don't have to figure out how, you don't have to figure out the how. Just know what you want, and it'll come.
And my favorite saying, just believe that you already have it, and go from there.
Yeah, and I would say just put your attention on what you want, feel that now, and open it up to the wisdom of uncertainty, all the possibilities of how it can happen.
So thank you. I enjoyed that topic. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, and we look forward to chatting again next week. Until then, this is our day.
Right. He looked at me.
Look at each other. Steve.
Rodney.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye, y'all.